So, one day, Jesus is walking along and he sees some boats at the edge of a lake. And in the lake, there's lots of fishing boats, and some of the fishing boats are at the side. And there's a fishing boat not far out to sea. And it was pretty clear they weren't doing a very good job. Now, you've got to understand, these fishermen, they were really good at what they did. They knew the lake, they knew the tides, they knew the fish, they knew how to catch fish. This was their livelihood. It wasn't something they were playing at. This is what they did. If it didn't work, they didn't eat. And they pulled up their nets and they didn't catch any fish. Now, if you're a fisherman and you can't catch any fish, then you might be a little bit embarrassed, and I suspect perhaps that might be one of the things. But can you imagine being in the fishing boat and you're there and you're working and your hands are a bit sore from the nets and you're a bit tired and you just want some food and you've been with your mates and it's a bit smelly and it's all, I just want to get the fish and I want to go home. And they failed. And they pulled up their nets and nothing happened. And then Jesus, who's walking along the beach, says, excuse me, can I make a suggestion? Shall we go play Go Fish? Now, this isn't the card game Go Fish. This is actual Go Fish. I would imagine they wouldn't have been particularly polite to Jesus at his suggestion to stick the nets on the other side of the boat. It's not like he said, oh, there's a big school of fish 4 miles that way. No. Stick them on the other side of the boat. And we're not talking about an ocean-going cruise liner, which is a 50 or 100 feet wide, huge, like many, many cars. This would have been probably a little rowing boat. So maybe, that far. Not a huge distance. And Jesus is saying, stick your nets on the other side of the boat. Because they didn't have any fishes. Joe said she was going to pretend to be a fish.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I didn't know when to do my fish.
And the sea.
Have we found the fish yet, though? We haven't...
Well, no, but the fish are there.
So they're in there.
They're just not in the net. So they're pulling up the net and there's nothing there. So Jesus comes along and says, put the fishing net on the other side of the boat. So they chuck the net over and it goes into the water. And the little fishes get stuck in the net. And so I can imagine these fishermen, well, let's humour him, shall we? Maybe we'll get some money out of it. So Jesus says, put the net on the other side. It goes into the water and they start to pull the net up. And you can imagine the kind of comments of, waste of time that was. Let's see what happens. And as they start to pull the fishing net up, they start to realise they can't pull the net up. Why is this? Maybe it's snagged on something. It must be that. It can't be the fish because there was no fish on the boat. And then they start to pull a bit more, and they start to see little flap.
Fishy.
On the water top.
Just flapping like that. A flap.
What's a flap? Yeah, anyway. So the fish, and they realise there's lots of fish in the net, and they start trying to pull, and they can't do it. So then they have to swallow the pride and say, lads, other boats, could you come and get down because we're a bit stuck. So all the other fishing boats go back out to the lake and they help along and they pull these nets in. The boats are almost going into the water. They're using all their strength. The nets are starting to break and there's so many fish in this boat, in this net, that it's ridiculous because Jesus said stick your net on the other side of the boat.
Wow.
So it's a good idea to do what Jesus asks us to do. That's always a good thing. And in this occasion, the fishermen realise, actually, do you know what? We just need to put our nets on the other side.
Amazing.
And it's good to do what people can suggest. Sometimes somebody else has got a better perspective than we have.
Yeah, wow.
There you go.
That's incredible. I mean, these guys, like Andy said, are experienced fishermen and they've been out for a long time. And then to find some on the other side is an amazing, amazing story.
Well, there's this guy called Moses, and Moses, you may have heard of Moses. So there's Moses and the bulrushes, the little basket thing, and his mum put him in the basket, and he was in the river, and he was protected and kept safe. That's the start of Moses' life. Went on to do some pretty cool stuff. And the story that we wanted to look at today is in the Old Testament, which is part of the Bible. It's the first part of the Bible, second book of the Bible, Exodus chapter 3. And Moses one day is out with his sheep, because he's a shepherd.
Bah. Do you want me
you.
to do sound effects?
Sound effects, yeah. But he was out with his sheep.
Bah.
You see, she's from Devon, so she can do sheep noises. Official. And he's wandering along, and there's rocks, and there's trees, and then there's a bush, and it's not an ordinary bush because there we go. It's a bush that's on fire.
Whoa.
But just like this, if I leave this for long enough, it'll get hot, but it won't disappear like a candle would. And the burning bush didn't burn up. It was definitely on fire. I'm going to put some safer. I'm going to go to my helpful director. So it won't melt. But there's a burning bush. Now, I don't know, you're walking along a road and you see something on fire. That might make you ring 999 if you're in the UK and call for the fire service, or 911 if you're elsewhere, or 112 in Europe. Moses didn't have a mobile phone. He didn't have emergency services. No. He just saw a burning bush. And he would probably have done a double take at the burning bush, but that wasn't that uncommon. Things could set on fire in its very hot place where Moses was. It's very arid, very dry, so things can catch fire. But this bush wasn't actually on fire. There was just fire coming from it, which would, be a bit weird. And then a voice. Now, if you're a bit freaked out by the idea of a bush that's on fire that isn't really on fire because it's not actually burning, but there's flames coming out of it, the voice coming from the bush might tip you over the edge to wondering about your mental condition. However, Moses didn't, because he heard the voice of God calling him out and saying, Moses, take your shoes off, you're on holy ground. So Moses did that, and Moses has a chat with God, and it's quite cool, and Moses goes on to do some really, really amazing things. But the story of the burning bush is really cool because the bush didn't burn up. There was no smoke, it wasn't fuel for a fire, it was just on fire, which is really cool, and that's because the presence of God was there. And the story of the burning bush, and you might imagine they will do an art video on this later, but the story of the burning bush is really one of the amazing moments of the life of a man called Moses, who went to do some great things. We also think of Moses and the 10 Commandments and the 2 tablets and the mountain and clouds and all sorts. So the burning bush is a really, really amazing thing.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, another amazing story here at Little Blessings Online. Amazing. I can't imagine seeing a bush that's not burning, because you just know fire burns and that's it. It's going to disintegrate a bush. But in this case, it definitely didn't, it was definitely on fire. So
wasn't the barbecue?
No, it defies science, doesn't it? It's another miracle, really.